We're on the bottom of Chav Testament days. Okay, good morning. May our learning be a merit, Ili Nishmas, Meira Chai, and Achama Bracha, Bastav and Mordechai. And we are on Chav Testament days. We're in the middle of a discussion about Para Aduma. So the Gemara says, we're talking about the fact that when involved in Para Aduma, the people involved become Tameh. So Amar Rava, sort of like 10 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rava, Rava said, Ikashali hakashali. If I have a problem about this issue of Yeshtem l'shchita mitchila v'atzof, oh, welcome. Benito, please come join us. And Moshe. Benito, what was your mother's name? Rivka Bat Levana. So today is the first yahrzeit of Rivka Bat Levana. So may our learning also be a merit to Ili Nishmas. Rivka Bat Levana. Amen. So Amar Rava said, Ikashali hakashali. If I have a problem, this is my problem. According to the opinion that in the act of shchita, the act of slaughtering, it's the end of the act that is shchita. It's not from the beginning till the end it's shchita. The beginning is just setup. The end is the shchita. That's the real act of shchita. So then, liflok b'chsheira de para. Then we should say that even when you have a kosher para, you should say there are different people who become impure. Some become impure and some don't become impure. Let's say two people did the act of slaughtering the cow. One began, and then the other one continued, and there was no break between the two. So then we should say, the one who began, since it wasn't a shechita yet, he doesn't become impure. It's those who do the services of the red cow who become impure. Yeah. The one who finished becomes impure. And we should say, the first one doesn't become impure because it wasn't shechita yet. The gavra basar mitama, and the last person is the one who became impure. So Rav Yosef answered. Rav Yosef answered. You're asking that the Mishnah should have spoken about two people slaughtering one cow. That's something that has to be excluded. That can't be in the Mishnah. Because we learned in a Brisa. The Pasuk says about slaughtering karbanot, tizbachuhu, you shall slaughter it. So the word tizbachuhu is really two words. Tizbachu, slaughter it. In other words, shelo yuhu shnayim shochtim zevach echad, tizbach in the single tense. You shouldn't have two people slaughtering a single karban. And who in the single tense, shelo yehi echad shochet shnei zvachim. You shouldn't have one person slaughtering two karbanos in a single act. So Rav Kahana explained, tizbacheyu ksiv. So what did we suggest? The Mishnah should have said that if shchita is only at the end, so then if two people are involved in the slaughtering of a cow, one started and the other one finished it. Two people are involved in slaughtering the red cow. One started slaughtering the red cow, one finished slaughtering the red cow. Since the shchita is only the end of it, the one who started is not yet shchita. So the one who started isn't tameh. The one who ended is tameh. I'll tell you why we don't say that. Because the word said, the Torah says about slaughtering karbanos, tizbachuhu, you will slaughter it. You can only have one person slaughtering a single carbon. You can't have two people slaughtering a single carbon. So, yeah.
So, Rabbi, what is beginning and the end of shechita? What is beginning? The beginning is the knife is starts,
yeah.
Right? And what is the end?
Once it gets to a majority.
Majority vote. When it gets to majority.
Yeah. The beginning is the minority, and the end is once you get to 50% and more.
Somebody one Kohen come in and do the
beginning of the cut, and then another
Kohen he take over the knife and do the.
Yeah.
But that is a thing in between,
So we're saying in Karbanos you can't do it because of a pasuk. In Karbanos you can't do it.
And also the Paraduman, you get from sheching Paraduma you get
It's part of the service. It has to be slaughtered, then it has to be burned.
Burned. The one that spreads the powder, it gets
But first you have to slaughter. Everybody involved with it becomes impure.
From day one.
Yes.
Except the first shot.
Well, we're saying since it has to be one person, he also becomes impure. So Amar le Abaye said back to Rav Yosef, Lavit Mar Allah, but didn't we learn about this brisa? Amar Rabbi Bar Chana. We're now in the second to last line of Chav Testament Beis. Rabbi Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Yochanan, Zudiv Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon. This is the view of Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon's Timta, who many Mishnayos and Brisos that are unattributed really come from him. But the sages disagree. And they say, Shnayim shochtim zevach echad. You can have two people slaughtering a single carbon. So if you can have two people slaughtering a single carbon, if you're going to say that shechita is only the end, remember there's an argument. Some say shechita is from beginning till end, some say shechita is only the end. But if you say shechita is only the end, so then you should say, the Mishnah should have listed this case. One person began, another person finished. So since shechita is only the one who finished, the one who began is not impure, and the one who finished is impure. Should have said that. Why didn't it say that? The Gemara says, and Abaye asked further, if the Mishnah is looking to tell you all sorts of interesting scenarios, where even though people are involved in paraduma, still some became impure and others did not become impure. That's the point of the Mishnah. So even according to Rabbi Shimon, who says you can only have one person doing the slaughtering of paraduma. If you say that in slaughtering, there's a difference between the beginning of the slaughtering and the end of the slaughtering. The end of the slaughter is slaughter. The beginning of the slaughter is just set up. If you're going to say that, so Rabbi Shimon Nami, Liflo, we can make a distinction like this. One guy did the act of slaughter, because Rabbi Shimon says you can only have one person slaughtering any carbon. You can't have two people in a carbon. But, Bishnei Sudrin, he did it with two. What are the Moroccan rabbis? They wear something over the head, like a cloak. What's it called?
Jalaba.
Jalaba, right?
Jalaba.
Jalaba. He did it with two jalabas. He did it with two. Now they wear like this hoodie over the head, like Baba Sali wore and his children wear. So that's what the rabbis used to wear. It was called a sudar. It was called it was called a cloak. It was like a scarf over the head. So
we have the original clothing.
That's the original clothing. We all came from the Middle East, right? We all came from there, right? We all come from the Middle East. So let's say he did it with two head coverings. So he began the head covering. He began the slaughtering with one head covering. Then somebody came, and while he's slitting the pipes of the red cow, somebody pulls off the head covering and puts on him another head covering. So if you say that shechita is from beginning till end, so then from the beginning it was shechita, so both head coverings became impure. But if you say shechita is only the end, so the first head covering was when he was doing the beginning of shechita, that wasn't shechita yet. The second head covering is when he did the end of shechita, only the second head covering should become impure. So it should have been listed. So to go to shachat chad gavra, let's say one person slaughtered b'shnei sudr with two jalabas. The sudr kama lo mitama, the first jalabah did not become impure because at that point it was just the beginning of shechita. The beginning of slitting we're saying is not called shechita. The sudr basra mitama, but when wearing the second head covering, that's what should become impure.
What's the point of this case? We already said beginning maybe it's not, the end is.
No, we're saying, but the Mishnah should have listed it. If the Mishnah's point, yeah, wore one hat at the beginning and then he wore another hat at the end of the shechita.
Why would the Mishnah come up with that?
Because we want to teach you interesting scenarios where even though multiple involvements, some were tamei and others are not impure. That's novel. That's an interesting scenario. We should have listed it. So the Gemara answers, that's not interesting enough. Ela bipsula de para kamairi. The point of the Mishnah was to say that even when you have a red cow disqualified, some are impure and others are pure. That's the interesting thing. It's a red cow that's disqualified, and even so, some became impure because by the time they were dealing with it, it was still suitable, it was still usable. The Mishnah wasn't talking about a red cow that's kosher. So tell me that in a red cow that's kosher, interesting aspects. Some will be pure, some will be impure. That's true, but that's not the point. The point here was, even when it's no good, it's a disqualified red cow, still some people became tamei through their involvement.
But it was not at the beginning.
What's that?
The red cow was not disqualified. It became, the process disqualified.
Yeah, in the process.
So even though the process wasn't completed, the people still became tamei.
Right, because they were involved in avodas para earlier.
Rabbi, the guy who feeds the red cow gets tamei too?
No, the avodos, the services of the red cow.
Only the service.
That's right. Okay, again, so we're part of this discussion, which began at the two dots on the top, really, of Chavtet Amid Beis. Rish Lakish said, Eina l'shchita ela basof, in the act of slaughtering. It's only the very end of that act, when the incision gets to over 50% of the pipe, that's called shchita. The end of the act is shchita. Shchita is only the very end. And Rabbi Yochanan said no. Yeshna l'shchita mitchila vatsof. From beginning till end, it's all one big act of shchita.
But don't we always ask at the end is the act, like if you build a sukkah, you put the clock on, or that's the act, the end.
Okay, that could be in regards to sukkah, but here are the questions about shchita. You know, obviously, we've learned, let's say, pigel, right? If somebody is offering a sacrifice, and when offering the sacrifice, he says, I'm planning to eat it at the wrong time. So it's only when he said that during one of the key services, either the shchita, the catching of the blood, the walking of the blood, or the throwing of the blood. So let's say he said it at the beginning. Is that enough to make it pigel or not? Maybe only if he says at the end. What is the moment of shchita? Shchita a process or shchita a moment? That's the question here. So Maser Rav Idi Bar Avin. Rav Idi Bar Avin asked the question based on something we learned in Mesechet Psachim. In Mesechet Psachim, there's a discussion about a pasuk. The pasuk says, "Lo sishchat al chametz dam zivchi." You're not allowed to slaughter the blood of my sacrifice while owning chametz. So that means that on Erev Pesach, when everybody's bringing their Karban Pesach on the 14th of Nisan, in the afternoon, they can't be owning chametz in the home. Let's say the people who are part of the minui, they were counted, appointed to be part of this Karban Pesach. The Sela Beis Avo, Sela Bayis, members of the household, if any of them have chametz, and the Pesach is slaughtered for them, they violated a prohibition. Now, the Gemara says there in Psachim that this is true not only about Karban Pesach, but about other Karbanos too. Other Karbanos slaughtered on Pesach, if a person owns chametz at the time, he's violating this prohibition. Okay, that's right. So now, says the Gemara that Rabbi Shimon said, let's say a person lost his Karban Pesach. So on Erev Pesach he didn't bring it. Then he found it on Pesach. And on Chol HaMoed, Uva Moed, and Chol HaMoed, he takes this Karban Pesach, Lishmo, and he slaughters it for its sake, namely for the sake of Karban Pesach. Now that makes no sense. On Chol HaMoed you can't bring a Karban Pesach. You have to bring the Karban Pesach on Erev Pesach. So then even if he owns Chametz, Potter is exempt. Because that's not a kosher Karban. So he doesn't violate the law of Lo Sishchat Al Chametz Dam Zivchi. However, if he lost his Karban Pesach and he finds it on Chol HaMoed and he slaughters it Shelo Lishmo, he slaughters it not for the sake of its sanctity, namely he slaughters it for the sanctity of Shlamim, and he owns Chametz at the time, then Chayiv, then he is in fact guilty, because once he slaughters it as a Shlamim, it is a kosher Karban. Once it's a kosher Karban being brought on Pesach, you can't own Chametz when you're bringing your Karbanos on Pesach.
But you can't on Chametz, period. What?
Correct. There's a separate prohibition.
It's a separate
Another prohibition. You get lashes for this. Because owning chametz is without an act. This is an act of slaughtering. So you would get lashes for
They
this.
can't be the chametz 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yeah, they should be. We're talking about people who don't do the right thing.
Korbanot is in the
That's what they
afternoon,
should
right?
do. We're talking about someone who didn't do the right thing.
Not you, Rahul.
So the Gemara says, Avina, but the Gemara over there discussed this, and it said, Taima de Shalol Lishmo. Right? When do we say that he's going to be chayiv when it was Shalol Lishmo, explicitly not for Pesach? Hastama Pater. But if he would slaughter it without a thought, without saying anything, then he's going to be exempt, even though he owns chametz. My Pater, why is that so? Pesach b'shayimos hashana, when you have a korban Pesach and it's not Erev Pesach, shlamim hu, isn't it automatically assumed to be a shlamim? Shlamina, so do we see from here that it's not true. The Pesach b'shayimos hashana b'yakira, that the only way of korban Pesach, other than on a day off of Erev Pesach, is not going to be a Pesach. You have to explicitly say that it's not a Pesach anymore. You have to uproot it from being Pesach. From Rabbi Zev Reichman said, this was an answer said by a group of sages. Maybe we don't need to explicitly uproot it for it to be no longer Pesach. They said like this, on here, what are we talking about? We're talking about the owners didn't offer this korban Pesach not because the Pesach was lost, but because they were Tamei Meis on Erev Pesach. So they were Tamei Meis. So since they were Tamei Meis, they couldn't bring it. So since they couldn't bring it, they assumed they would bring this very same sheep as Pesach Sheni on the 14th of Iyar. They need to Pesach Sheni. So since they were going to do it on Pesach Sheni, then the Stamel Lishmo Kai. So then this sheep was still presumed to be offered as a Pesach. It wasn't going to be offered as a Shlamim, because it was still going to be offered as a Pesach on Pesach Sheni. So in such a sheep, Hayu de Akira, that's the type of sheep that if you slaughter it on Chol Hamoed, it's still going to be called Pesach unless you explicitly uprooted it. Ha'acher. But if you had some other situation, namely not that the owners were disqualified, but the sheep got lost on Erev Pesach and you find it on Chol Hamoed, lo akira. So then, if you slaughter on Chol Hamoed, you don't need to explicitly say that it's no longer Pesach, since you brought your korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, because you brought a replacement, and now you found the original, so you know it's not going to be brought as a Pesach, so even without explicitly uprooting it, it wouldn't be a Pesach. It would automatically be a Shlamim, and automatically as a Shlamim, if you owned Chametz at the time, you violated the law of Lo Tishchat al Chametz Dam Zivchi. Okay, that's all in Masech Pesachim. So says the Gemara like this. If you're going to tell me that it's an act of Shkita from beginning to the end, so then makes sense. If so, at the beginning of his slaughtering, it's no good because you're presuming everybody assumes it's a Pesach. So at the beginning of the Shechita was no good because it's Chol Hamoed. It's not the time to slaughter Pesach, and he's thinking Pesach. Everybody's thinking Pesach. It is dedicated to be a Pesach. But if you're going to tell me that Shechita is only at the very end, okay, when the shachet beit porta, once you slaughter a little bit of it, so now already he's not going to be able to use it for Pesach Sheni anymore because he slaughtered some of it. So itchilemi Pesach. So now it can't be used on Pesach Sheni. He's slaughtering it on Chol Hamoed. So since it can't be used for Pesach, so now shouldn't it become automatically a Shlamim? Idach ki kashachet. So when he continues with his Shechita, Shlamim kashachet. He's now slaughtering the Shlamim. Abaye said no. Pesach, true, when he begins slaughtering it, he can't use it anymore on Pesach Sheni. It couldn't be a Pesach. But nevertheless, midmei Pesach mi'itchi, since it had started as having the sanctity of Pesach, and it's him who wasn't able to bring the carbon. So, if he was still thinking to use it on Pesach Sheni, it was still a Pesach, and since it was a Pesach, once it gets slaughtered a little bit, there's still a thought, okay, so it's like a carbon Pesach that gets a blemish. A carbon Pesach that gets a blemish, you just sell it and use the money to buy a new carbon Pesach. The money of it still is the value of Pesach. And if you're going to tell me, what do you mean the money? But by Yamad of Aracha, we need to evaluate how much it's worth in order to say that there's a monetary value, and the monetary value is going to be to buy Karbanos Pesach. It's not true. But it's not, because we went to the Mishnah, Shachat Bo Shnayim, if somebody slaughters both of the pipes, O Rosh Shnayim, or the majority of both pipes, and the animal is still flailing about, it's still considered fully alive. So therefore, at the beginning of the Shechita, it's still fully alive. Since it's still fully alive, you could evaluate it. Since you could evaluate it, therefore, it still has the holiness, its monetary value is still holy as Pesach. Therefore, it still continues to be a Pesach. Therefore, it was a Karban Pesach during Chol HaMoed, which is meaningless. Therefore, there was no violation of Los Tishchat Al Chametz Dam Zivchi.
Rabbi, Korban Pesach, you said there have to be no chametz.
We're saying more than that. We're saying all the karbanos of Pesach, all the kosher karbanos on Erev Pesach and on Pesach, if you own chametz when you are offering those karbanos, you violate a separate prohibition of Lo Tishchat Al Chametz Dam Zivchi. So our discussion here is when you have a karban Pesach that you are slaughtering it on Chol HaMoed, is that a kosher carbon or not a kosher carbon? So we're saying presumably it should be a kosher carbon, because if you weren't able to bring it on Erev Pesach, it automatically becomes a shlamim. We're saying no, it doesn't automatically become a shlamim. If you lost it and you brought something else, yeah, now it automatically becomes a shlamim. But if you didn't lose it, you were the one disqualified, you're still planning to use it on Pesach Sheni, it doesn't automatically become a shlamim. So 1 second, once it gets cut, isn't that meaning that you're not going to use it anymore on Pesach Sheni? You cut it in Chol HaMoed. So now it becomes a shlam. No, it doesn't become a shlam. The value of it is still a value of Pesach.
But the rules of Pesach Sheni is different than regular Pesach.
Okay. But you can use the same animal.
Yeah, but you could have chametz there, Pesach Sheni.
That's true.
Right?
We're talking about during Pesach. We're slaughtering this stuff.
Pesach we're talking about.
Exactly. Okay. All right, now a new topic after discussing Yesh Shelo Shchita Mitchila Vad Sof, whether shchitas from the beginning or from the beginning, or shchitas only at the very end. Now we go on to a new topic about shchita. Amar Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda is the name of Rav. Hashoche b'shnayim u'shlosha makomos. Somebody who slaughters in 2 or 3 spots. So he cuts here, and then he moves the knife somewhere else, and the bottom, and then again on the top. So he cuts. There are 2 or 3 incisions on the neck, not just one incision. Shchita sukshera. So Rav holds that shchita is kosher. Kamita kamei to Shmuel. When I said this to Shmuel, he disagreed. Amalei said no. B'yinon shchita meforas v'leka. We need a shchita which is clean. We need a single shchita, with 1 slit, 1 cut, and then we can open it up and look at it. Can't have a cut here and a cut here and a cut there. It doesn't work. After Shlakish, Savar bin Shchita Meforas. For Shlakish also, you need a single cut, so that you'll have one nice open wound, and you can look on both sides of the wound, not that you have multiple cuts. So Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Shlakish said, Minayin Shchita Shem Meforas. How do we know that Shchita has to be opened up? Shenem, as it says, Chet Shachut L'Shonam Mirma Davar. So this is an interesting proof. In Tehillim, David HaMelech criticizes people who speak ill of others, who share lashon hara. He said, so and so does this and this bad, and complain about people. He says their tongues are like slaughtering arrows.
Right.
So it's like a word and it flies. It goes from place to place. So what do you see though? You see that an arrow can slaughter. So we're saying the tongue is like a slaughtering arrow. So you see that an arrow can slaughter. So when you think about an arrow slaughtering, if I shot an arrow and it flies, and then while flying it gets to the neck of a cow and slaughters it, it's not going to make 2 or 3 cuts. It's going to make 1 cut. It's not going to cut here, then go up, and cut there, then go down, and cut there. It's not going to do that. It's going to have 1 cut. So you see that shechita is 1 cut.
Lashon Hara is worse than the arrow, Rabbi.
Lashon Hara is worse than the arrows.
Yeah.
That's true. Right?
Yeah.
What do they say? Where am I going to get my reputation back? Right? Once it's out there.
So Rabbi Dachas was pretty added,
Mean Rav?
no,
Rabbi Yudam Rav.
But, you know, Rabbi,
Or maybe he thinks you don't learn what shechita is from a pasuk about Lashon Hara.
it's amazing that these Tanaim did not talk, they just talked about beginning and end of
Shechita.
Shechita, but they don't talk about the blood part of it. That, you know, all the blood has to come out, then the job
We'll
is
get
done.
to blood. We'll get to blood. Don't worry. We'll get to
Then the
blood.
job is done, right?
There's a
Rabbi?
whole chapter about covering blood. We're going to get to blood. It's there. This is a big Masechta. 142
okay.
blood. We've got a couple of months to keep working with it. Okay. Massive. So now we have an argument here. Again, interesting argument. Right? We had an argument before. Is shechita from beginning till end? Now a new argument. Does shechita have to be 1 cut, or can shechita be 2 or 3 cuts in different spots? So Massive Rebbe Lazar challenged it. We learned Shnai Moslim Besakin. 2 people are holding a knife. The shochten, and they can shecht. Afilu echad mil mala v'echad mil mata. Even one on top and one below. Shchita sok sheira. The shchita is kasher. So 1 second, if you're going to say the shchita has to be 1 spot, why is it okay? One's above, one's below. Like a shchita meforas. You don't have a shchita of 1 cut, opening it up nicely to examine it. Amarle Rabbi Yirmiyah said, Mishnatenu, that Mishnah is not talking about 2 knives. The sakin echad, it's talking about 1 knife. Shnei bnei adam, and 2 people. And they're holding the knife in a diagonal. So one guy's further up and one guy's further below. But it's 1 knife. And they're making 1 cup. Rabbi Abba said, Yaki, if that's the case, I knew the Tani Allah, this is what we said about it. In Choshen Shem Yitrifu Zel Zeh. We're not worried that by the fact that it's 2, they might make it into a treifa. If it's 2 people with 2 knives, I understand it. There's a chiddush here. We're not worried it's going to be a treifa. We might have thought to say leichosh, we should be worried. They're going to rely on each other. This one's not going to do a full majority. This guy might not do a full majority. They'll end up just wounding it. That's the chiddush in choshen. We're not worried about that. But if we're saying that it's 2 people holding a single knife, what do you mean we're not worried that they're going to make it a treifa to each other? It should be, we're not worried, we're not worried, we're not worried that one's going to push in and the other one's not going to push in. We're not worried that remember, shechita has to be a slitting motion. It can't be pushing in. With 2 people holding, maybe this guy's going to push and that guy's going to slide. We're not worried about that. Samalei, Reb Avin, Tani. So I said, okay, so change the verse, change the language, move it in, put that in. Tani, read it as in choshen. We're not worried. Now starting lamed and beis, we're not worried. Shema yidrosu zel zeh. We're not worried that since one's pulling here and the other one's pulling over there, that we're going to push into the knife. We're not worried about that. That's exactly what it means. So Maseh Rav Avin challenged this discussion from another source. We learned in a brisa, shachar es haveshet lamata. Let's say he slaughters the esophagus below, v'esakana lamala, and he slits the trachea on top. O es haveshet lamala, he slaughtered the esophagus on top, v'esakana lamata, and the trachea below. Shchita so kshera. The shchita is kasher. Why is the shchita kshera? V'aleka shchita meforas. So it should be no good, right? It's not in 1 spot, the 2 pipes. You're not going to have an open cut to examine it nicely. So Mosif La, Sir Rav Avin asked this question, Umafarikla, he answered it. We're talking about b'shchita asuya kekulmus. We're talking about a shchita like the cutting of a feather pen. When a sofer cuts the feather pen, he cuts on a diagonal. Yeah. That's what we talk about. We say one's on top, one's below. It's not that one's here and one's there. It's a diagonal cut. So it's 1 single cut. You can look at both sides of the cut. It's a nice cut. but one was on top and one was below.
I thought we had to go straight through between the bones. Didn't we discuss that?
You have to hold all the bones.
No, but wasn't that like in the
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Shabbos where we learned?
Yeah, we're going to get to it soon. Yeah, you're cutting through. Ahu Torah, there was a story now. There was an ox. It was slaughtered with 2 or 3 cuts. It wasn't one cut. It was a cut here and a cut on top and a cut on top. Oh, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta. So Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Shmuel, the son of Marta, went Shakam Shufra, and he took from the best pieces of this ox. Amalei Rab Zera said to him, "In Matan Rabbeinu, you just taught us, our teacher, Mishnah saying that the Mishnah talked about shechita being kosher with 2 people is apparently not like Reish Lakish and Shmuel, that it has to be 1 cut, and therefore it has to be 2 people holding 1 knife. It could even be Shnei Sakinim u'Shnei Bnei Agdam. It could even be 2 knives and 2 people, 1 knife below, 1 knife on top, 1 person below, 1 person on top, and that's okay. We don't require shchita meforas. We don't require an open cut to be able to examine both sides, that it was done nicely. Okay, so now we're talking about a shchita that's no good. One of the remember there are 5 laws of shchita that are halacha l'Moshe Sinai. One law of shchita is that it has to be a straight, smooth cut. There can't be shehiyah, there can't be a pause in the middle of the shchita. Another law of shchita is you can't have drasa, you can't press. That's what we said before. If you have 2 people holding 1 knife, there's a danger that the pressures will be misaligned and there might be a pressing instead of a smooth cutting. Another law is hagrama. In the slaughtering, we can't have the knife go up to the wrong spot. Another law is ikur. That's the law that comes up the most nowadays. If the knife is nicked, it's going to tear out the pipe instead of slitting the pipe. And the 5th law, which we're going to discuss now, is from the word chulda, a weasel. The knife has to be an open knife. It can't be a knife that's covered when doing the shechita. So it's got to be open. It can't be covered by feathers or fat or covered by the pipe. It has to be open to cut. So Amar Rav Yehuda, my Rav. Rav Yehuda said the name of Rav. Hechlit es hasakin bein simin l'simin upsako. Let's say he pushes the knife between one pipe and the other pipe. And so it's really being covered, let's say, right? The first pipe is the trachea. The second pipe is the esophagus. So instead of cutting through the trachea to get to the esophagus, he pushes the knife behind the trachea. And basically the knife is covered by the trachea. When it's covered by the trachea, he uses the knife to cut the esophagus. Then he goes back, pulls it back out, and then he cuts the trachea. Or even doesn't pull it back out. He just turns it the other side and now cuts the esophagus. Psula, it's not kosher because this is called chalada. Because this is a knife being covered by one of the pipes. So it's like a weasel who's hiding in the corners. A knife that's covered doesn't do a kosher shechita. However, if it was tachas ha'or, if the knife is under the skin and then he slaughters the trachea and then the esophagus, sheira, it's kosher because skin is not really considered, skin is not part of the shechita. The shechita is the 2 pipes. So therefore, if the skin is covering it, that's not considered chalada. Says the Gemara, my kamashman, what's the lesson? Tanina, this is a Mishnah. The Mishnah says later on Daf Lamed Beis, or if he slaughtered one pipe and then hichlit es hasakin tachas hasheni psako, he hides the knife under the second pipe and severs the pipe. Rabbi Yishbav says since it was chalada, it's nevela. It's considered an act of nevela. The animal didn't get a shechita. And Rabbi Akiva says it's treifa. Since the one pipe was cut, so therefore it's a treifa. But either way, it's not kosher, right? It's either it's a treifa or a nevela. Treifa is that the animal's not kosher because it has wounds and blemishes that it will die within 12 months, but it had a shechita. So the Gemara is like this. Even Masnisin, if that was only the source, the Mishnah, Havamina would have thought to say, Hani Mili, this is only true. Milamata Lamala. When he slaughters from below to on top. And then I would have thought that the problem is not so much that the knife is covered, but to lo ka'avid derech shchita. The problem is that he's not doing it in the way of shchita from top to below. Aval, I would have thought that milamala lamata, if the knife is covered, but he's slaughtering from above to below to cover derech shchita, which is the way of slaughtering a mashapir dam. I would have think it is okay. Kamashmalan, that's what Rav is telling me, that it's not okay because the knife is covered.
Rabbi, what do you mean by knife covered? I don't understand it. But it has like vesting it, the knife goes in. I don't understand what does cover mean.
We need to watch the YouTube videos of how to do the shchita. That'll make it, I think, clear.
I've seen it in person many times, so I don't know what cover means. I don't understand it.
You've seen kosher shchitas. This is a non-kosher shchita, where the knife is not a smooth cut, but it sounds to me like it's somewhat, it's like from the back in. That's the way I understand it.
These are not shochet, they're doctors, I think.
We have a good picture? Yeah, please,
No, I don't have a
Keva.
picture, but if this is the neck, instead of going, if the animal, the head of the animal like this, is supposed to go like this.
Right, okay,
He, one option, he sticks it inside,
okay,
so you really don't see the knife, part of the knife, because it's in the neck.
okay. It's
And
inside.
then he takes one out,
Good,
and then takes the other.
good.
So you don't see the whole knife all the time.
You don't see the knife. You have to see the knife, right? The knife is covered by the pipe. That it's between the two pipes. So one pipe, the bottom pipe, is covering it, and you're not seeing it.
You can't have the knife with anything.
The knife's got to be open.
No, you can have it with skin.
Correct. That's the next
part of
one.
the animal, because
That's
you have
part
to
of the
get
animal.
through, but like
That's the next point, exactly. Tachas ha'or, if the knife is under the skin, kshera, the shchita is kosher. However, Bei Rav, the students of Rav said, Tachas ha'or, if the knife is under the skin, Eini Yodea, I'm not sure about this. Maybe it's no good. Maybe it's no good. So the Gemara says now a whole bunch of questions. Ibrahim had a question. Bei Rav, according to the yeshiva of Rav, to Ami who said, Tachas or Eini Yodea, if the knife is under the skin, we don't know if it's kosher or not. So what about Tachas Matlis? What about if there is a some type of a towel around the sheep? It reminds me of the story of Seth's goat, because Ramaz, their team is the rams. So Seth wanted to get a goat for the rams to slaughter a ram. So imagine if you had a ram and you put around it the towel of the team, say Ramaz Rams on it, and now you put the knife under the towel. Is that also a problem according to Rav's yeshiva? Because the knife is covered; it's under a towel. Tachas matlis ma. What's the law? Would that be a problem, or maybe not? Maybe skin is a problem, but the towel's not a problem. Another question: Tachas tzemer misubach. What about if there's a lot of wool on the neck of the sheep, and it's under the wool mahu? Is that going to be like a towel, or is that going to be like skin, or is that like a pipe? So Teku, we don't know the answer to any of these questions. Well, Rav Papa had a question. Let's say he shechts the two pipes the right way, and then hichlid b'miyot simanim. And then the pipe is covered in a minority of the knife is covered in a minority of the pipes. Mahu, what is the halacha? Do we say since the majority was done right, so it's okay? Who cares what's there with the minority? Or maybe we say no. Since maybe we say no, that even though we don't need this minority, since he's slaughtering in one act of slaughtering, it's all one act of slaughtering. And in the act of slaughtering, you can't have chalata, you can't have the knife hidden. So the answer is teku. We don't know the answer to this question.
Even though he had already severed the majority of the
Even
pipe.
though he had already severed the majority of the pipes. Okay, again, the earliest time for talis and film today is very late. It's 6:27. So we'll start with brachos at 6:20, God willing.
Rabbi, I've seen them that they have, like the chickens, they have feathers, extra feathers, and then
Pull it out.
they pull it out before they put it in.
Yeah, that
Right.
they can do.
Right.
Alright, just to begin the Mishnah, Shochet Shnei Rashin Ke'echad. Let's say he slaughters two animals in one motion. So he lines up the two cows, the two sheep, he takes a knife, he goes this way and that way. Gets them both. Shchita Sok Sheira, the Shchita is kosher. Now we have what we just were quoting before. Shnai Mosim Besakim V'Shochtim. Two people holding the knife and they shecht. Even one's on top, one's below, which we thought means two different knives. Then we answer in the end, it's not two different knives, it's one knife. Shchita Sok Sheira, the Shchita is kosher. However, it is a sarosh b'vasachas. But if he chops off the head in one motion, so that's psula, that's no good, because that's drasa. Shchita has to be slitting, it can't be pressing in. Okay, so we'll continue with this Mishnah tomorrow. And again, the earliest time for Talis and Tefillin is 6:27. Rabbi Chanani ben Akash Omer, Ratzah Kadosh Baruch Hu